Welcome to the Hobby Jogger Podcast, where elite athletes and ham and eggers lace up their stories. We explore the common ground that running creates, from the world-class runner to the hobbyist hitting the pavement, trail, or treadmill. Expect a blend of inspiration, laughter, and the shared joy that makes every step count. Join us on this journey where every run is a story worth sharing. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of The Hobby Jogger. I am your host, Casey Koza. I am joined by my good friend, Mr. Rob Myers. Rob, how are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. A bit of a work marathon day, so I'm happy to be talking to you guys.
Yeah, a little bit different. Always good to change up, the meeting vibe, I guess. So glad we could get you off of the work meetings and onto something a lot more fun. Today's guest comes to us from an apparel company, Mr. Lucas Hathaway, who's the owner of Runur, and you can find it at Run Your Run. He's going to explain that to you because I got confused. Lucas, how are you today?
Great. Thank you so much for having me. This is a blast. I can't wait to spend as much time as you guys want to talking about running.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we're here. Big fans of running. We run all over. Rob and I have traveled, not around the world yet, but far enough across the United States to run. And you're quite the accomplished runner yourself, Lucas, just coming off a third place at the Tampa 100, correct?
Yeah, that one was, that was the tale of two stories. That was a tale of two races. The first 65, another Lucas and I were first and second. We ran 11 hours and some change for 65 miles. And then then it became an ultra. And the next 35 miles took longer than the first 65. It's just funny how those things go.
Yeah. That is one thing about the ultras, that the last eighth of an ultra could take as long as the first 7/8
Absolutely.
If things don't go to plan or go a little bit off plan. Are you from Tampa or Florida? Because you've run a bunch in Florida, correct?
Yeah. I don't know what it is. A glutton for punishment, maybe. I came from the marathon world. We took on the 6 majors over the last 6 years or 7 years with COVID and did those. And, it's funny, I fell apart in 65-degree marathons, and then I decided that it would be good to run Miami 100, Keys 100, and Tampa 100 in, 80, 90 degrees. So I don't know how it keeps working out, but most of my ultra experience, ironically, is in Florida.
Yeah, I remember seeing you ran the Keys 100, which is also a pretty interesting race and that one. It goes down follows Florida Keys down to the southern part of the Keys, right?
Yeah, you go from basically, mile 100 to mile 0. You run down the chain, the chain of islands on Route 1. And man, that is a special kind of hell when you start that race and you hit mile 1 and you're on a highway, you're on an overseas highway, and you have this 2-3 foot sign greeting you that says mile 99. And then you go another mile and it says mile 98, and there's no turns. There's no, the sun comes up. There's no shade. It is, I got to mile 1, got to mile 2, and I'm just almost like panic attack symptoms, because it was my brain knew what it now had to do. There was sometimes a trail or a turn or a hill, it gives you at least a downhill. It gives you I only have to go a mile and take a left. And so that one hit me hard.
And the threat of traffic. There's one road, man. That's it. Doesn't matter if you're walking or you're in a car.
Unfortunately, that was one of the ones that a couple of people got hit this past year.
Oh man.
That was a tough race. Bob Becker puts on an incredible production, and loved every minute of that race and equally despised it and loathed it and, questioned every part of my life in that race.
Some beautiful sections though. What is that? The 7 Mile Bridge.
Oh
There's,
yeah.
there's a couple of bridges that are just epic. I've never ran a race on them, but I've driven over them many times.
It was cool with 7 Mile because the first 12, because I generally start fast. Like for whatever reason, I've done a string of road hundreds. I guess I've done okay in them. And like the first 50 of the keys, I cramped. All of it, up downs and all the fun moments of running ultras. But the cool thing was I got to I got to mile 50 and then to 7 Mile Bridge right at sunset. And so I'm running 7 mile over water, just fiery sky. I mean, it's one of those moments that you almost get emotional talking about after the hell that it took to get there and then what it represents for the next, 50 miles, negatively splitting it and clawing back from middle of the pack to a top 20 finish was just one of those things that sticks with you.
That doesn't happen very often. Usually once you start the moonwalk, it's tough to come back from. And yeah, rarely do you see someone fade back and then be able to come back through the field. So hats off to you for that, Lucas.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, everyone hasn't done that. Tampa was the moonwalk.
Because when I think of Florida, it's dead flat down there. Everything is flat. There's not a hill in Florida, I don't think. The highest elevation in Florida is what, like 150 feet or something?
Somewhere around there. Somewhere in Gainesville is like the highest point in Florida. And, bridges are the only elevation in these races.
Flat creates a whole different. I just recently attempted the Canal Corridor 100, and flat just creates so many more problems that I really didn't even think of before attempting it. It's not like a trail race that I'm used to where, hey, I'll just hike up. I'm going to hike up this mountain, basically rest and, walk. Power, what we call it power hiking, thanks to your boy Scott Jurek,
Mm-hmm.
not to be walking up a hill, but we power hike, right, Rob?
It's walking. We call it power hiking.
We give a little bit better name, but yeah, it created such a larger amount of problems that I just didn't think of. I mean, I made it to like mile 35 really good. I was like, this is easy. This won't be tough. And then right after that, it was just, it's really hard just to hold this pace for this long. And everything just fell apart all at once, unlike previous attempts at mountain ultras. So what is your game plan going into these? Because I know there was a couple guys that were run walking, another woman, she was a run walker. They seem to have much better plans than my concept of a plan, because I didn't really have one. So what was your game plan for the flat 100-miler?
So, I mean, I guess generally speaking, so I started my 100-miler career with Blackbeard's Revenge, which is, coast of North Carolina, top to bottom. So again, flat, hot, 100-miler, point to point.
Does that go in the Outer Banks?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That one was great because it gave me it was my first 100, and you just don't know what you don't know, and sometimes that's a good thing.
And you took second there, which is awesome,
Yeah. But it was, I raced against Whitney Richmond, who was part of the US 24-hour team, and just incredible. That one was survival, not winning. There was a storm that they paused the race for an hour and all that. And so strategy wise, I think that for me, it's about momentum. It's like a game of football. Like you've got to kind of ride the waves. And so go out a little quicker, establish a little bit more of like a pace, establish more of a cadence and kind of get off the ground, but don't go too fast where you blow up, because I've done that too. And then create stop offs, create goals, etc. Because like the keys and Outer Banks, there's really no turns. It's just 100 miles. It's flat, and you can run as hard as you want to. There's no like obstruction. There's no hill. There's no trail. There's nothing. And so establish an early pace. So like in Miami, ran first marathon. I just try to get first marathon around 4 to 5 hours. Get some pace going, and then have some checkoffs. So the second marathon be another goal, third marathon be another goal, like just kind of break it up into fourths and really focus on, okay, taking care of myself in the meantime, and a couple of those blow ups and races have been when I've gotten in racing brain way too early and started stopping the food intake, the proper hydration or whatever, and I'm just get to the finish line, and then all of a sudden, the wheels come off, and now you got to go 35 miles of moonwalking like Tampa.
So the Outer Banks race, did you go north of Corolla onto the sand, or was it just all on the road?
So you do like this like 1 mile up, turn around and come back down. And so you start at the lighthouse and go, you like basically touch the sand, and then you turn around and run 100 miles south, just right straight down. And it's funny because in the pre-race, they said, hey, there's going to be this turn in your last mile or two, and you're used to 20 hours of running with no turns, and then you're ultra brain and you're ultra tired and it's pitch black and I'm by myself, and and you start just freaking out. Did I miss the turn? I don't see anybody. I'm in this deserted town, and I know he said something about a turn. Is there somebody behind me? Did I go the wrong way? Whatever. And fast forward, it's like you get to the finish and it's like, what did I just do? What was how did I just get from this place to this place using my legs?
Yeah, there's always a certain part of zoning out for me, like you said, like this is weird. How am I here? Like, I don't really. And then in hindsight, do you have trouble remembering in hindsight, like things that happened during a race?
There's definitely like points in a race that I'll remember till I'm 90. And then there's like just gaps of, you said this, or, that you talked about this or whatever. And no, I don't remember that.
Yeah, there's a lot of gaps, a lot of spots. How about you, Rob?
I tend to remember the mental side, where you're having a lot of fun, you're good, and then you go through that panic where like something happens, your stomach's bothering you, you just don't feel right. And then you figure that problem out, you go another 10 miles. Hey, I'm good. I'm feeling good. I'm going to crush it. Then 10 miles later, you feel like you're done. It's DNF city. So I remember that mental back and forth more than I remember, my surroundings or who I was on the course with. Or
I don't know, Lucas, do you have the thoughts of like when you are moonwalking, when it's at its worst, I do anyway. I always feel like, oh, hey, I can just stop at this Nate. I make a million reasons in my head why I don't have to finish or go on. I'm like, yeah, this next aid station, they got an ATV here. They can just, no big deal. We'll just, save it for next time, leave something in the tank. But my brain that's the hardest part for me, is getting it to turn off. Like, hey, we ain't quitting. This is just what we're doing. And do you have those moments of doubt as well? Or is it just me and Rob?
No, I'm just coming off of my first DNF in Spartathlon this year. And I think that in the lead up, that's where I have my mental gymnastics, like going into the race. I don't have to start this. It won't be a DNF. Like, I can't get down there, or, it's hard for me to sleep that week. All the like anxiety and stress and all that. It's like it builds. So like when the gun goes off, it's less about the noise of not finishing. And like, honestly, it kind of turns into anger of why am I not at the finish sometimes, or like a frustration of like ultra math, like when you get 70 miles in, you're like, hey, I'm 70 miles in. I'm almost done with this race. No, you're not. Like, you're not even halfway. You're not halfway until 80 or 85 miles, and it's like, then the insidious thing that I think is the hardest battle mentally is when you start convincing yourself you're doing damage by finishing. Like, it's a problem to finish this race. Like, you're going to hurt yourself. You're going to cause permanent damage. You're going to, you've overloaded your calendar and you don't feel great right now. And you're already thinking of mile 80 next month. Well, I don't know if I can finish these 20 miles, and I've got another 100. Like I got to just save myself. Like what, how am I going to get to that start line? And I think that that's where the mental gymnastics for me starts, when it's like my brain goes into preservation mode, not this is hard mode. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've more than a few times where yeah, I know maybe we pushed it too hard, and yeah, I don't want to get injured, and then I can't do what I want to do next week, and we can just shut it down here, and it'll be just as well, no big.
Or you feel bad for your crew, like you're starting the moonwalk and you're like, they're going to be out here all night. Your brain is like, well, I mean, you're just terrible. You're leaving your crew out here for 10 hours while you walk for 10 miles.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a big one too, because yeah, I mean, David, the producer, knows he crewed me at Grindstone 100K. It was miserably cold and rainy. I've talked about it numerous times in the show, but yeah, that definitely went through my head. I've got my girlfriend out here, my buddy out here. They're wet, they're cold, just as cold as I am. Yeah, maybe we'll just wrap it up here and go home. But I talked myself out of it, and I'm sure they would both agree that wouldn't want me to quit just because of them. I'm sure, because that's how I am. I wouldn't want them to quit because of me. So
It's human nature to go into protective mode. You're not supposed to go out and run fast for 30, 40, 50 miles. Yeah, I think that's our bodies just saying, hey, we got to protect ourselves. Let's shut this down.
Because I think we're all aware that it's going to be hard. It's like I was running one of the races, and this girl's running next to me, and great person, finished the race that I was in, like, awesome finish. She had that moment in her first 100 where it was 62 miles in and everything hurt, and she starts thinking about preservation as opposed to screw the rest of the career, the rest of the races, the rest of whatever. Like, I'm in this, I'm gonna finish it. She stopped at 62, 63 miles in the spirit of being ready for the next thing, preserve and protect and all that. And it sounded so logical. It sounded so good. The spiking DNF rate on a lot of these races, I think that's probably more the culprit than it's a hard thing. 10, 15 minutes of a trailside sit, a car nap, a piece of pizza or whatever your food is, your whole perspective on life changes. So if you just stop with the noise for 5 minutes and say, listen, I don't have to go and race another mile in my life. Let's just go another mile. Let's walk. Let's do whatever. And it was when I was in my first 100, I'd signed up for a 50 miler. COVID happened. They canceled it 3 weeks ahead of time. And I'm like, well, crap. I've already done all the training. So I went out with my wife and my mom and ran a jogging trail in Georgia, just 50 miles out to Alabama. And they crewed me. And it was like kind of one of those Forrest Gump days. Everything worked, perfect weather, nutrition was on point. Just everything was just kind of feel. I got done 1 mile of low point. There's video of me dancing at 43 miles. It was just like everything worked. So I immediately did the smart thing and signed up for 100. And so then when I get to Blackbeards, I do the 100 and I get to 30 miles, and that's the second furthest I've ever gone. And then the brain kicks in. Wait a second. It's hot because it's starting to be, 11, 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Sun's coming up. You're nowhere close to the finish, whatever. And it's like, you just start to feel the weight of the world. And my wife jumps out of the car and she's just like, hey, you want to walk? I really want to get out and stretch my legs. Yeah, I guess I'll do, I'm feeling really bad for myself. Yeah, I guess I'll do a mile. And that 15, 20-minute mile, whatever it was probably the whole reason why I finished that race. It's like sometimes we get so in the moment that we don't realize that, hey, this is just a phase. This is a season. This is a moment, and it doesn't have to define the rest of the race.
Just looking through your ultra sign up here, Lucas, you started out with 100, a couple 50 milers. Then I noticed this is insane. I know of this race. Going off the mental strength, you signed up for the Arizona Monster 300. I don't know. I know Andrew Glaze, former guest on the show, is running it. I don't know a whole lot about it other than it's 300 miles in Arizona. What made you take that jump? A 300-mile race?
Hey folks, if you're loving the stories, tips, and laughs we're dishing out, make sure you don't miss an episode. Hit that subscribe button so you're the first to know when a new episode drops. And hey, if you've got a second, why not leave us a review? Your feedback helps us improve and keeps this running community growing. Lace up, hit subscribe, and let's get back into the show.
So I was invited to participate in Tampa after winning Miami. The first 100 that I ran, even though I had that Forrest Gump and all that, it was like a week of sleepless nights as I signed up for it. And then it would like cold sweat randomly. Like, why the heck did I do that? And then the week leading up to it, I couldn't sleep. And even starting the race, I had no issues, or I was like freaking out, whatever. When Tampa reached out to me, yeah, I'm not doing anything that weekend. And with Runur, I was actually down at Disney exhibiting for the 2 days previous. So I was at the expo on my feet for 20 hours. And then I drove an hour down to Tampa and just ran a 100-miler. And it was like the entire process of that 100. I do the races because I want the mental challenge. I want the physical challenge. I want to push my limits. And like, I don't mean it as like, I don't want it to sound any way other than it probably does. I mean, it sounds dumb to say 100 miles is not hard, but it just started to, like, Sparta, why I signed up for that one, why I signed up for Arizona. I started to I am going to finish. There's just going to be a few bad moments. Like, it's not going to be that big of a deal, especially when it's not trail, because road, you just have to physically get there. Trail, you might break something or roll something, or you still have a 10,000 foot climb ahead or whatever. So long story short, signing up for Sparta with the time cutoffs that they had, like, there's a real chance of failure. And like with Jesse Itzler talking about the Muskogee, and there needs to be a real chance of failure. And so with Arizona, like, I tried to sign up for Cocodona and they sold out like the week before. And I was like, well, this is a first year event. Let's see what I'm made of. Signed up for that one. And I was like, well, I guess I should do something trail. So I did Georgia Death Race earlier this year. And then I signed up for Fierce Dragon 200 here in Georgia. So just trying to like backfill, I guess, a few races till I get to Arizona. But I just, when you sign up for ultras, like, you do a marathon, because I was in that world for so many years chasing PRs. Like, yes, not everyone can qualify for Boston, or not everyone can, run an Olympic speed, but everyone can finish a marathon. If you go through the training, 99% success rate of getting to that finish line. So with ultras, I think the thing that attracts me the most is the DNFs. Like, this is something that's truly hard, that is really worth committing to the pain and the effort and the training and all that stuff. So I think with Arizona, I couldn't think of anything that scared me more than running 309 miles in basically the Arizona desert over a week.
Yeah, that's Rob, did you look at this race, the Arizona Monster 300?
I didn't go to the details. I've heard of it though.
Not too familiar with the details, but they managed to already get 362 entrants, and they already have a wait list of 37 people.
You want to see how crazy it is? This is the book for the race. I mean, you get like a 40-page book. Aid stations are 20 miles apart, 100-degree temperature swings. You basically start on the coast or in the border of Mexico in the Arizona desert and go 300 miles.
Is this an Aravaipa race?
Destination
Trail. Okay.
Destination Trail.
Man, 41,000 feet of elevation gain.
Got to put it on the list, Casey.
Nah, that one's not on the list, Rob. That is not on the list. Yeah. So what gave you, like, because I know it's not cheap, because I know Andrew registered, and I think I saw he might have posted entering, and I know it's not cheap to enter. I would like to know what gave you the confidence to do this? Like, you finish some 100 miles, and that's very difficult. I have yet to finish one, but I feel like at mile 70 of a 100-mile race, you're like, this is horrible. This is like, I still have another 50K to go, almost 50K. I know, not the right math, but you get what I'm saying. How do you go from that to, I want to run 309 miles in the desert? I actually didn't even know you were registered before we set this up. So this is awesome. But how did you go from that? Like, what was the mental process there?
I think sometimes pontificating about how hard something is going to be adds to its lure, if you will, or it adds to its challenge or its complexity. Like, Sparta has this just subculture of, it's a rite of passage not to finish it. It's 153 miles from Athens to Sparta. It's the original steps of Phidippides, and the legend says that he started sunrise and got to Sparta before sunset the next day. So they give you 36 hours to run 153 miles, and that as an even pace cutoff, I guess that's pretty challenging. But they actually grade it to be faster on the front side and slower at the end, obviously. And so you have to do your first marathon in 4 hours and 45 minutes, or they pull you off the course.
Oh,
Your 100 miler is just shy of 23 hours. And those are not easy times, but the more I thought about the pace, the harder it became. Long story short, I think sometimes, like, the more impressed I am with a race, I feel like the harder I make it. And I'm not saying that 300 miles is easy. I haven't done it, so we'll see how it goes. But I think sometimes, like, okay, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Everybody knows the story, but, like, how do you run 100 miles? I mean, you said it. 70 miles in, you still have 30 more miles, and so, like, if you put 30 miles in your head, that is further than any of us really want to run at any one clip, as opposed to, like, it's 300 miles. Or so I'm doing the 200 in January in Georgia, and it's a 40-mile, 20 out, 20 back, 5 times. And you have 5 days to do it. So I'm setting it up as a training run for Monster. And I'm going out in the morning and I'm doing my 40 miles. And then my house is not far from there. So I'm going back and I'm going to shower and sleep and then wake up and do it again. And so, hey, I'm not running. So for me, I'm not running 200 Fierce Dragon. I'm doing 20 miles. I'm turning around, or I'm going 6 miles to the aid station, and I think with Monster, it's so big, it's so long, it's such a monster that if you try to like think about that as one challenge, you can't even sign up for it. It cripples you. My thing is, okay, I've got 7 days, 55, 60 miles a day, or 50 miles a day, and I finished the race. Let's deal with the small goals and work on, just, hey, each day do what the day you need to do, and then the next day takes care of itself.
I don't even know if I'd be able to figure out how to start training for that, Rob. I guess just go hike every day.
I think it's a solid plan, though, because I put it on the list and then I scratched it off.
You put the Arizona Monster 300 on the list?
I did, and then I scratched it off, and then I heard, how do we do it? 50 miles a day, take one bite at a time. So I put it back on the list.
Oh, it's back on the list.
It's back on the list.
If you sign up for that one, I don't know that I can throw my hat into the ring. I'm sorry.
It's not 300, it's 309. That 9, I'm not going to look forward to that. That's going to be, not that it's the last 9, it's the fact that I've put 300 in my head for a year. I've still got 9 more miles.
We shouldn't be allowed to do that. There's a 40 miler that we run every year, but it's really 42 and a half. And just that 2.5 really pisses me off.
Yeah.
It shouldn't, but there's just 2.5 extra that they're not accounting for.
Yeah. If you called it the 310 miler, I'm in 300. That's 9 miles at 20-minute miles. That is a long time.
Yeah. That's quite a while. That's not good. It's not fun. It's a challenge is what it is. And yeah, hats off to you for even signing up and attempting it. And I actually am stunned looking at the ultra sign up for it now. The Arizona Monster has gotten that. I guess I'm not, I know enough people, in this that hey, there's people out there that'll do whatever. So, hey, hats off to you if you're out there signed up for the Arizona 300 monster, which is
300 miles.
yeah. I don't even know. Yeah, I guess you just got to come up with, like you said, you got to come up one bite at a time, aid station to aid station, figure out a plan and attack it from there. And don't forget your trekking poles.
I think with these big races, I spend a lot of time on YouTube, on podcasts and stuff. Like that's part of my training is just it's almost like research or whatever, just listening, mental training, whatever, and doing 200, doing a 300 or wherever it is. Like the more time you spend just kind of listening to the sport and listening to the people that are in it, it's just I was listening to Pete Kosinick's, journeyman running and just like crossing the country. It's like, hey, if I maintain effort, if I keep effort down, he said I can basically run for forever, And so if you think about it, Tampa for 35 miles through the finish, I walked, my stomach had turned on me, it just went sideways. But so stomach being the issue, that was like that littlest component of it. Physically, like my muscles, I could run the next day. Like I really wasn't that beat up because I had 35 miles of walking at the end of the race, and so like the monster, the 200s, whatever, it seems like the thing that like Sally McRae, when, I watched hers with the 200s and just the state of her feet, it seems like you have to deal with the small stuff so it doesn't become the big stuff. And so for the 300s, it's okay. And I haven't been there. So, we'll see. This will be like a little time capsule. We'll see how it goes in a couple months. Hey, if there's something going on with your feet 20, 30 miles in, you better deal with it now so that it's not an issue. And if you can protect feet, if you can protect stomach, I don't think that your muscles are going to wear out first. I think that those things and sleep and those kind of things are going to be the problems.
That's definitely one thing we learned out at Western States crewing was just noticing like certain people that were very in tune with taking care of themselves along the way. They were going to eat what they needed, cool themselves off, change shoes and socks as necessary to not let anything build into an issue before, pretty much letting it rip at mile 80, but that's fine. That's 20 miles left to go. I guess very similar in a 300. You just have to be a little bit more careful. Something a little bit of a foot issue at mile 30, you need to stop immediately, pull the sock off, take care of it, Vaseline, whatever, and then move on. But that's one thing that I've definitely learned, especially from this podcast, Rob, is just how to manage, I guess, a race more than just going out running and gunning. Would you say?
I agree. The pros that we've had on, they have a solid plan and they're just able to execute on the plan. They seem to do pretty well, right? Unless something you can't plan for happens, like stomach issues or you step in a hole and twist your ankle. But if those things don't happen, it's just about executing on a plan that they put a ton of time into the research and they know exactly what to do. I don't think we do that very well, Casey.
No, we're not good at that. Yeah. They also do a very good job of training their stomach too.
We exercise our stomachs, beer, pizza.
Yeah, I don't know. It's the same exercise in theory it is, I guess, but yeah, I don't know. We'll have to do further research needed on that, Rob.
Yeah.
So what's your goal for the Arizona 300, Lucas? Just just to finish would be beyond any kind of goal I have, but what is your goal for it? Do you have anything specific?
No, I think the more pressure I put on finishes, the harder they've become. The more fun I've had in races have been the ones where it's, hey, just get to the next aid station. I ran with all the roads and with all the Florida and all of that stuff. Like I really would love to run Badwater. Wasn't selected this year. Been working on the resume this year. Like really trying to get on that start line. And he's got his preferred races, so I've been kind of trying to check off those. And to get on the start line, it went from 3 minimum of 300s to 4 last year as they were like releasing the qualifications. And so I was like, crap, I don't have a 4th even on my schedule. 3 weeks notice, jumped on a plane, went to Ireland, ran 100 miles, finished 1711, fifth, sixth. I don't remember what the placement was. Just had a blast. Found a couple guys along the way. We ran 60, 70 miles together. And I mean, really, we ran 80, 90 miles together. I mean, there were parts we weren't together, but there weren't expectations of some strong finish. And it was just fun. I think sometimes we get so in our heads about like nutrition and pace and exercising perfect calories or whatever. It's like we miss the forest through the trees. Like we did pay money for this. Andrew Glaze, smile, you're doing it wrong. Like that's so much easier said than done in the dark points. Running has taken me around the world, and runners taken me around the world. And it's just like, if you miss that, it's like you almost miss the whole reason for the sport.
Yeah, you definitely get around. I'm looking at your Strava. I mean, Georgia, Florida, Cincinnati, California, Greece for several days. Run some epic places. You got a favorite?
Oh man, I think Ireland as just a place, like I don't know, it's the weather. I'm a big fan of running cold and rainy. It tends to be that a lot there. But I just love running in new places. And so like the Phoenix, the Garmin Phoenix has the like round trip mapping, and I use that all the time. I'm in a new city so Runur, my apparel brand, we do a lot of expos around the country. And so my favorite part of that is the fact that I get to run in all these places. So I go to the city, I do the expo, I try to run the race, and then come home. And in the meantime, I grab my watch and say, okay, I want to go on 7 miles, builds a course for me. So I'm like racing myself around the country.
That's awesome. I mean, I only went 30 days back in your Strava, just so the listeners know.
I'm glad you brought that up because you do have an apparel company and you do make extremely good shorts. I have 2 pairs of them. The no chafe shorts. And I was like, I've heard that before. Like, hate running shorts. They're terrible. None of them work. I always chafe. There's always like a thigh rub, something rubs. But you did come up with an awesome pair of shorts, Lucas, that, like I said, I still wear them. What inspired you to do that? How did you decide I need to change something in running shorts? No seams. I feel like, and I could be wrong here, but you have the longer, like almost compression shorts built in rather than just like the little diaper that a lot of running shorts have.
Diaper.
Yeah, I cut that thing out a lot of times, to be honest. I think you kind of changed it a little bit. We definitely did. And what inspired you to do that?
I have a background in service industries. I've owned an insurance agency for a long time, and I started getting into running. I ran a couple miles here and there. I ran a cross country team in high school for a year. It was fun, but it was a year, and then I moved on. And fast forward, graduated 2009 from high school. Didn't really run after that until 2000. And that was like 07, I guess, that I ran cross country. Then 12, I signed up for a marathon, and it might be akin to like an Arizona Monster at that point in my life, like just trying to do something crazy. But I didn't follow up with corresponding action. So barely trained, whatever. And so finished in the med tent, went to the med tent, IV and severe dehydration and 5 mile or 5 hour, I said I want to do it in 5 hours. I did it in 4:59:34. Just sprinting the last quarter mile to try and cut it. Got into running in 2017, ran New York City because I was like, if I'm going to do one marathon, I think that's the one I want to do. And I ran it. The shower afterwards was just hell. It was just chafe city. Went on a journey to find I guess my brain works like that. Like if there's a problem, I try to solve it. Bought 30 different pairs of running shorts, hated all of them. There's got to be a better way after every long run, cause I'm very like, I'm almost ADD with like running. Like I can't get into triathlon cause it takes too much gear. I have to maintain all this swimming gear and all this biking gear and a bike, and it's just a lot, whereas running, it's like, it's hard enough for me to keep my watch charged, my headphones charged, and a pair of running shoes that I can run with, you know what I mean? And so Vaselining and body gliding, and I would always get 3 miles into my run and be like, I forgot to do that. and then come back and have to scream in the shower. And so COVID happens. I'm still running, but like I can't really travel as much, whatever. And so I went on a journey to see if I could solve running shorts. And I think there's some very simple fixes where my background is not apparel. I didn't go to a fashion university. I have no design background, and it definitely showed with our first pair of shorts. But from a function perspective, I think we built something that tends to work a little bit better than the average short out there. We use a nylon versus a polyester, so it doesn't have grit, so the fabric doesn't chafe you. And then we deleted the seams for everything that touches your skin, because everything athletic went to a specific seam that just turned into sandpaper. So I'd finish runs and I'd literally have like a line down my leg. We kickstarted in 21. 22, we did all the major marathons in America trying to like promote it and see if I was the only one or if other people were dealing with the same thing. And we did okay. And then we've been promoting them on the road. We've hit 35, 40 marathon expos across the country over the last 2 years, and have been able to build a running community, be a part of the running community, ultras to 5Ks, marathons to half marathons, everything in between. It's been some of the funnest 2 years of my life, just being that much more ingrained in the running community.
Awesome that you did it. You, like you said, you definitely changed something in them. And this is not at all an advertisement in any way. I had you on because I bought your shorts. It's the only pair of running shorts that I wear. I wear other shorts with underwear underneath, but I hate running shorts because I've always gotten chafed, or there's like a seam or the little diaper thing that rubs you the wrong way. I applaud you and I guess it's the nylon. I mean, and mine aren't worn. They've been through hundreds and hundreds of miles over, I'd say probably, though they have to have over 2,000 miles on them at this point, easily. I mean, so they are worn like where my legs do rub, but I'm still putting miles in them, so you're making a good product. I wear, my girlfriend, she maybe doesn't like when I wear them out somewhere.
That first pair. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe not a fan, but of that, but I truly do enjoy them. So,
Casey, we got to get you another pair.
Yeah. I think, are you going to be down in Disney for the,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sweet. She's running the Disney marathon, so I will be there. If you need another salesperson, maybe I'll hop in and try and sell a couple pair of shorts for you. See if I can sell some apparel. What do you think, Rob? Think I can sell some apparel?
Yeah, I think you'll do quite well.
I think that's all I do. Just talk about the fact that they work for running long distance. The only plug is, all of our stuff is a lifetime warranty. We call it a sweaty guarantee. We're not trying to be the thing that sits in the back of your closet that you won't throw away because you spent too much money on it. We want to be the thing that comes out of the dryer and immediately you put it back on and go use it. And so our sweaty guarantee will take back anything at any period of time. If you don't like it, you can send it back to us sweaty. We'll give you a full refund.
Can I still get a full refund after 2,000 miles?
If you feel like our product wears out before you think it should have, I will replace it with a new pair, or I will refund you your money entirely. I mean, and truly, it's obviously not a good business model if your product is not good. We've been selling for 2 years. We've sold a lot of running shorts, and we have had 37 returns. It's something I'm extremely proud of. And being that my background was in other things and all of that, I hate propaganda marketing. I hate hand mixed, or when that's how everything is done, or hand sewn when everything is hand sewn, or organic being a buzzword. I can't stand that kind of thing. And so our stuff, if I'm full of crap, you can send it back sweaty. We give you a full refund. We have 3 commitments: nylon to your skin with no seams, so that you don't chafe when you run with our product. Number 2 is multi-pocket designs. So if there are we have a compression short that has 7 pockets. We have our staple short we're coming out with a 4-inch. We have a 6-inch. We have a 7-inch. All of which have 4 pockets, 2 zipper, 2 liner. And then the third one is that lifetime warranty. So if there's any anything that doesn't work for you, we'll swap sizing, we'll take it back sweaty, everything in between. So if it's, with our gear, it's really been crowdsourced over the last 2 years, which is so fun. Like we've been at all these expos getting feedback. Hey, I don't like this. I do like this. Hey, could you do this or whatever? And as I'm there at all these expos hearing this feedback, and then I'm flying to China or Mexico or Atlanta or wherever we're having it produced, I'm taking it from customer to factory and getting product from it. So the big guys, all the big brands, they literally have it printed, designed with the exact specifications of pro athletes. And I'm not a pro athlete. And when I have bottles being handed to me, and I need very different gear if I'm going to be running a 2-hour marathon than if I'm going to be running a 3 or 4 or 5 or 6-hour marathon. And so having been in those incredibly longer times than the pro and having run a little bit quicker, I try to build for us as runners, not as elite athletes.
That's a very good point, because I think there's a lot of times where the shoe companies, the apparel companies, they don't realize that, me, Rob, you, Lucas, we're going to spend 5 or 6 hours in these shoes. We're not, 3 hours and 15 minutes in these shoes for, a 50K, or 2 hours and 12 minutes for a marathon. Like we're in these things for a lot longer time. So things need to fit maybe a little bit better or a little bit smoother on the skin, because 5 hours is a lot of time to irritate a lot of sensitive parts, right, Rob?
Oh yeah.
That's awesome, Lucas, and certainly appreciate your time here and just chatting about running. It's cool to talk to another entrepreneur, about starting up the dream and making a change to a product to better suit your needs. That's awesome. I just want to thank you for coming on the Hobby Jogger, and we certainly appreciate your time.
Man, I can't thank you guys enough. I do the runner events so that I get to spend 2-3 days just talking about running, and I don't annoy my wife for a couple of days. So anytime you want to talk about running, I'm your guy.
So Lucas, where can our listeners find you?
On the runner side, all of our social media website, it's all the same. It's just runur.run, RUNUR.run, or run your run. And then my personal social media is just at Lucas Hathaway. Instagram is usually the one that I spend the most time on. If any of your listeners, or if you guys are running any of the big city races in the marathon space, see if you can't find us. We're doing a ton this year. We'll be all over. Be at Route 66 next weekend. I'll be Disney, Honolulu, East Coast, West Coast Disney, everywhere that there are big races to have a lot of fun. So thank you guys so much for the time. Thanks for the invite.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Hobby Jogger. We hope you've enjoyed our conversation today. And if you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support keeps us moving forward. Until next time, keep those feet moving and enjoy the miles.